Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel English Literature. Today we are going to talk about Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart and it is part 2. In part 1 we have discussed the summary of the novel. The novel is divided into the chapters and parts, and now we will look at the other aspects of this novel like characters, themes, symbols, analysis, etc. Now, major characters. We are already introduced to the characters, but here I just listed them. Like the first character, the protagonist, who is Okonko. Okonko is the protagonist who gained fame and acclamation by winning a wrestling match. We know everything about Okonko from the story, how he is angry and always thinking about to keep his position in the clan, and that was his weakness. He is always tense, anxious to keep his position, not to prove that he is a weak person. And he was a leader, a warrior, a great farmer with hyper masculine attributes. So this adjective is goes synonymous with Okonko. He was quick to anger. He gets angry very quickly and violence. He hated the idea of being an unsuccessful man like his father. He had 3 wives and 10 children. He was the wealthiest man in his clan. His success was in stark contrast with his father's failure in life. So, father, whose name is Unoka, and Okonko, they both are polar opposite in their attitudes. Unoka and Okonko. Now, his success was he was stubborn in his thought, and what he thinks is right, he tries to do that. He does not hear from anyone, even from his friend and well-wishers. He could not adapt to the changing situation. That's why when at the end the missionaries came and the white colonizers took hold of his place, he could not tolerate it. He committed suicide in the end. Now Ukonko is the father of Unoko is the father of Okonko, who felt as a man with a huge loan and shame. He is famous for his irresponsibility. He preferred playing the flute and drinking wine to farming. He was lazy and afraid of work. He died a very pathetic death. So how Unoko died? Unoko was diagnosed with a rare disease and he was abandoned in the forest to die alone. Now Ikimufuna, this is another important character of this novel. We all know about him and his tragic poor fate. He was a boy from a neighboring clan. He was sent to Umuofia on some terms. Okonko was chosen as his guardian. Actually, what happens, from the story that Ikofuna's father killed a woman from Okonko's tribe, and for that compensation prize, Ikofuna was sent to Umuofia. Now, Okonko was chosen as his guardian, but unfortunately, Ikomofuna had to die at the hand of Okonko. Noe is Okonko's oldest son who became very fond of Ikemufuna. And when Ikemufuna has to die in the hand of Okonko, Noe became very angry towards his father and he detested his father. Later, at the very last part of this novel, Noke was converted to Christianity. Ikuifi was Okonko's second wife, for whom Okonko has special concern. She loved her daughter Ejinma very much, and we have talked about Ejinma. One time Ejinma got seriously ill and Okonko and Ikuifi, they both tried hard to save their daughter's life. Ejinma was Okonko's daughter who had a special bonding with her father. She was very bold and brave in attitude. Now, Ogbuefi Ijudu. He is one of the wise older clansmen of the Igbo community. He always tries to guide and give good advice to Okonko, though he was not successful at all. Because when Ogbuefi Ijundu told him to not to do or get involved in something that may ruin his life, he did not listen to him. Now Oberika, he was Okonko's closest friend, who took care of his land and properties when Okonko was in exile. He always helped and warned Okonko, giving him the right advice, whether Okonko took it or not. Now Chiolo. Chiolo was a priestess in Umufua who was very stern and dedicated to the oracle. She was a good friend to Okonko's second wife, Ikuifi. Uchendu, he was the younger brother of Okonko's mother, who received exiled Okonko warmly and supported them. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown is the first white missionary who traveled to Umufua. He was a very compassionate man with respect for the Igbo community. He built a school and a hospital in Umufua. Reverend James Smith. When Mr. Brown fell ill, he was replaced by James Smith. But he was not tolerant and compassionate like Mr. Brown. He is a representative of stereotype colonialist. So you can see that Achebe draws two types of colonists here. At the one side there is Mr. Brown, good colonist, sympathetic to the Aboriginal customs and religious beliefs and their tradition. And on the other hand there is James Smith, who is a typical stereotype colonist. Now, after the characters, we will have a look at the significance of the title Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. The novel shows how things fall apart at variegated levels before and after the colonization. Even the character Okonko's life fell apart due to certain mishaps and his arrogance. When we discuss the storyline, the plot, there we analyze in details about Okonko's life and how his beautiful life, you can say in the sense of power and prominence, fell apart due to certain miscommunication, misjudgment, mishaps. His perfect life as a respectful and powerful leader of the Igbo community shattered when he took the leading part in killing his foster son Ikumufuna. In his fear to be proven like a weak person, he always did everything with rashness and without thinking. His thought glides towards a single point, not to be weak. And this single point controls everything of his life and of his mind. His accidental killing of a clansman led to his exile from his land for 7 long years, and this devastated his life. Later he committed suicide, fearing the helpless humiliation at the hand of the white people. Now, like Okonko fell apart. Okonko's life fell apart. Next, so first of all we find that Okonko's life fell apart. And next, like Okonko, the Igbo society fell apart. Why? When the book opens, we are introduced to society dominated and controlled by a strict as well as rigorous political and religious tradition. There is a system, there is a discipline. Their superstition, their blind religious faith, oracles, brutality, all were their own. The situation, the Igbo community that was before colonization, and the Igbo community after colonization. Before colonization, the Igbo community had their own culture, their own system, their own belief, and after colonization, the traditional tribal way of life was suppressed under the atrocious hands of colonizers, who set up their own rule. So after colonization, colonizers, that's culture. Christian missionaries convinced and forced the tribal people to convert to their religion and follow their judicial as well as social system. So Igbo's community also fell apart. The novel ends with Okonko's death and the Igbo society's death. So Okonko's death was not only a person's death. Okonko's death was the society's death, a culture's death, a system's death. Now we'll have a look at the symbols. Those symbols recurrently navigated the structure of this novel. The first symbol, that is fire and rage. Okonko is termed as a roaring flame. His angry nature, masculinity, heroism are defined in related terms of fire throughout the novel. He was afraid of showing any weakness. His strength is always explored in his indomitable stubbornness and atrocity. So fire and rage is the first symbol. The next symbol is yam. In this novel, the yam symbolize wealth and power. Okonko harvested a huge amount of yams that insinuated his strength and wealth. Growing yam was a tough and challenging job. Yam, the king of crops, was a very exacting king. A clansman who succeeded in growing yams is regarded as a respectable man, and Okonko, with his hard toil, succeeded in that. The third symbol, that is locusts. Though at the beginning chapter, locusts were released as delicious snacks, oh my god, later their significance changed. Locusts represented the coming of white men and the missionaries. As locusts destroyed the corn, so did the missionaries, spread over the land and took control of the aboriginals, devouring their culture. So locusts, though they were at the very beginning crunchy, delicious snacks, later they become synonymous with the colonizers. Now, white men are locusts, consuming everything, devouring everything in the end. Now we'll talk about the themes of this novel. Different themes are interwoven in the fabric of this novel, and the most prominent of them is colonization. The destructive effect of European colonization is the central theme of the novel. Things fall apart. Colonizers brought new thought, new judgment, new roles, erasing the old ones. Actually, Achebe grew up in Ogidi and came in contact with both Christian and Igbo culture. Both Christian and Igbo religious beliefs and customs, Achebe was well acquainted. That's why when he draws the characters, then we find the bipolar character, Mr. Brown and James Smith. One was good, the other was bad in the sense he did not support the primitive aboriginal rules and religions of the community. So Achebe was well acquainted with both the phases of colonization. The British power arrogantly tried to change everything in their favor. This was the negative side of colonization. They found the church, school, and other institutions and practiced their systems of rules and regulations. The next thing is betrayal. Okonkwo betrayed Ikumufuna by killing him. He was his guardian. He was his protector, his father figure. How can a father kill his son? So, betray. What? He betrayed the bond of faith, belief. Again, for Okonkwo, his clansmen had betrayed the tradition of their culture. When Okonkwo was out for 7 years in exile, his clansmen, they should use their power. They could resist the incursion of missionaries in their territories, but they support them. They are confused. They were divided. Some of them support the missionaries and they were afraid. Fear dominated in their heart. They are confused. So in various means they were divided. Their hearts were divided. They betrayed Okonkwo's strict rules and regulation with which Okonkwo framed his clan. Next thing, masculinity. Masculinity was a product of society and tradition that the Igbo community followed through generations. In this novel, the theme of masculinity is expressed through the character of Okonkwo. He was in deep shame for his father. For him, any sign of gentleness was against masculinity. He vowed no laziness. So he used to beat his family regularly. He demanded unquestionable obedience from everyone. He represented the patriarchal hierarchy of tribe life, and at the peak of it was Okonkwo. Now, identity crisis. The fear of losing identity is a recurrent and inherent theme of this novel, and this identity crisis is found in the central character of Okonkwo. Unlike his lazy and unsuccessful father, Okonkwo was desperate to build his own identity. And the fear of being like him, like his father, always haunted Okonkwo. When his father died, he inherited nothing but shame and huge loan. But he toiled hard to earn his name and fame. Like a possessed soul, he drudged his livelihood. And indeed, he was possessed by the fear of his father's contemptible and shameful death. His father was died alone, forlorn by everyone in the jungle. Throughout the novel, Okonkwo tried to keep his identity intact. Even the slightest show of emotion or gentleness was prohibited in his character. And after colonization, the loss of identity became synonymous for everyone, every person of Igbo community. Loss of identity. Not only for Okonkwo, but everyone for Igbo community. They all lost their identity and they just go under the clutches of colonization. Analysis. Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart is a classic novel and a significant literary piece for postcolonial studies. This book exhibits and explores the conflict of the African tribal value system with the encroaching of Christian colonizers. Under the insensibility and indifference of colonial power, the Aboriginals lost their identity and root. This book is the voice of African life. And this is our great Chinua Achebe.